When you think about your career, you've owned businesses, you've scaled businesses through bad times. Obviously, you've navigated them personally. What are some of the things that people should be considering right now as we're looking at a potential recession?
Well, I think it's fun to explore this kind of event and think about it offensively and defensively. So when you reached out to me this morning and you asked if we could talk about this, I think that's kind of how I frame it. So like we can make a defensive category and start discussing that, and then we can talk about like how do you prosper regardless of political party in the White House or whether we're in a recession, et cetera. So you want to make sure that you're doing things that kind of make money and grow your net worth regardless of those events. So first and foremost, from like a defensive position, I would say live within your means. I think that's a really important thing and an important discipline that I've tried to deploy over 20, 25 years of being in business. I had money before Bitcoin, and I've done well with Bitcoin, et cetera. But I've been doing this for 20 years, so I don't know if your followers or the viewers know kind of my backstory. But I may not look like much, but that's all by design. So first, live within your means. That starts with kind of getting out of debt. Using good debt is a strategy you want to deploy, but you also want to take a look at all of your debt during these times when you're going to get, if you have variable interest rates, those interest rates are going to rise now. So you need to make sure that you structure that debt well. So if you can pay off debt, that's not good debt, I would do that. I would also look to restructure debt that's not favorable or variable. And use debt to income ratios to your advantage. What that means is you want to make sure you make more money than you spend. A lot of people don't get this right? You want to make more money than you spend. And you want the amount of money that you make to far outweigh the amount that you spend. And remember this, during times of economic need, banks only lend money to those people who don't need the money, right? So those people who don't need the money get the best terms, they get the money from the banks. And those times that you need a loan from a bank, you will not get it, or you will get the worst terms possible. So that's the first kind of defensive play. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I think that this is dead on of just like the timeless financial principles end up being applied and almost like they're exposed or exaggerated in times of downturn. And so the idea of just like living within your means, you should do that in good times or bad times, but it becomes really, really important in the bad times. And then you're also other point around just like the more that you are disciplined and live within your means, the better financial position you're in, which then means that you have optionality during bad times. And so whether that's loans, whether that's you can go on offense, you can do all these different things. It becomes really, really interesting because I think a lot of people just say, hey, in the good times, I want to get rich. And then in the bad times, like, oh, I got to, all of a sudden scramble and figure it out. So I think that's a great point. What else do you think people should be doing from like a defensive standpoint other than just living within their means?
Yeah, so this is a transition moment between offense and defense. I believe that you should have multiple streams of income. And here's where that becomes valuable. If you're someone that has multiple jobs, let's say, I have 9 jobs at this moment, 9 jobs, and multiple full-time jobs. If I don't like one of the full-time jobs, I can get rid of it. And if one of those full-time jobs don't like me, they can get rid of me. But it doesn't affect me as badly as if I only had one. And then if you structure these multiple streams of income to be, stocks or investments that pay dividends, real estate, that's rental properties, other passive sorts of income, you can really diversify. This is one of the spaces that I like to talk about diversification. A diversified revenue is a stronger revenue, in my opinion. So taking on more jobs, taking more responsibility, having assets that pay you dividends, both passive and actively, rental properties, et cetera. I love that strategy going into a recession, taking that list of 9 jobs that I have and always pressure testing them, saying, am I doing the right thing, the most effective thing with my most valuable resource, which is my time?
When you think about, let's say, the passive income, right? How diversified do you think somebody should be? Is this something where, like, hey, if you have two different versions of passive income, then you're probably good, or do you try to get as many as possible? How do you just think about passive income in these times?
I don't want to be a mile wide and an inch deep, but I do like to have a diversified passive income strategy. So I do like real estate. Real estate does really, really well traditionally in these kind of inflationary times, even during a recession. I like to have multiple jobs, whether it's consultant work or stuff I'm pulling a lever and actually making money for. I think it's really important. And I think diversifying them is interesting. For someone like me who likes to play around in different like investment themes, it's natural, whether I'm making money in Bitcoin mining, power generation, trading commodities, real estate. It feels very natural to me. And some of your viewers that have gone through your evolution, Pomp, which, you were early stage venture guy, big time Bitcoin, and now you're talking about business and investing across all these thematic verticals. I think your listeners are probably interested in that as well.
Yeah, one of the things that I think folks usually forget is in order to invest, let's say that you're not in the investment business, you don't manage other people's money, et cetera. A key part to investing is actually where do you get the money to invest? And, plenty of people will say, oh, like all these folks that I see out there in the media, et cetera, they just inherited it. Right. Well, usually what ends up happening is that majority of folks, like 80% of millionaires, inherited $0 in America. And so those 80% of millionaires, they end up actually figuring out either one, building a business, or they may be a lawyer or a doctor, have some level of high income as well. But being able to make money before you actually have money to invest is a really important part. And it always feels like, especially young people today, with the gamification of some of the markets and kind of the meme stocks, et cetera, everyone wants to go from, I don't have a job, I don't have any money, to I'm an investor. But actually, historically, it's been go build a business to get money or go get a high paying job to get money. And then once you have money, then you become an investor, right?
Yeah, I love this point. And it reminds me of one of my favorite books by Robert Kiyosaki. It's Cash Flow Quadrants. So Cash Flow Quadrants, if you haven't read it, it kind of it lays into what Pomp's talking about. In the four quadrants, you have being an employee. An employee has the safest position, has benefits, has small amount of responsibility, very structured. And as long as the boss makes the right decisions and you do what the boss says, you have a job. Then there's an evolution. People go to college and they become educated, and you move into this situation where you become self-employed. And it's not always like 4-year master's, whatever. It could be technical school, or you could be entrepreneurial. But the other quadrant across from it is self-employment. And it's a very dangerous position. So there's doctors, lawyers, plumbers, etc. Most of the time, those guys eat what they kill, and they are responsible to pay the bills, to pay the employees, or pay themselves. And usually you're paying yourself last in that situation. And it's a great kind of misnomer, I believe, or it's kind of the position that a lot of us were sold by our parents, go to school, get a career, and get a high paying job. That high paying job as doctors and lawyers was kind of in this self-employment bucket. And a lot of those people get disenfranchised there, sell their practices, take on a lot of risk. And so you need to be disciplined in that self-employment bucket and build a real business and get into business ownership. Real business ownership has reproducible systems. It leverages time so that it's not just you getting paid per hour per widget, but you have people getting paid per hour per widget, and they're paying you. So true business ownership is the kind of evolution, and it's a much safer, higher responsibility position. And then finally, the last quadrant's investor. And there is where you get to either use your money or other people's money and monetize your successes. Whether it's your reputation or your own money, as an investor, you get to monetize that. It takes time.